Minasan konnichiwa, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk with you about the 5 ways that you can fit gaming into your extremely busy schedule. Because I know you're struggling with this. How do I know, you might ask, dear viewer? Oh yeah, because I also struggled with this myself. Believe me, I know. Anyway, let's not waste any time, cut the bullshit. The first way is what I call the unproductive early bird strategy. This sounds obvious and self-explanatory, but I still want to explain it to you because I don't want you to assume it means something different than it actually is. And it is an excuse to make this video longer than it needs to be, so let's get on with it. To apply what I call the unproductive early bird strategy, you first need to identify how long you want to play games for, and then just set your alarm to wake up that amount of time earlier than usual. So for example, if you want to play for around 2 hours and you usually wake up at 7 a.m., you will have to set your alarm to 5 a.m. It is a simple concept, and the good thing about this is that nobody is going to disturb you during that time. The downside, however, is that I know that you might not be a morning person, and inevitably you will either end up sacrificing some of your sleep, which is something you don't want to do if you have work the next day, or you will end up changing your entire sleeping schedule. Because think about it, if you wake up early, then you have to sleep early. This would be a good thing if you usually do useless things towards the end of the day, like watching TV or scrolling social media. But on the other hand, it would be a bad idea if you have important things to do in the evening, because you will be so tired that you won't be able to do anything. Another downside is that it's not a good idea to start your day with something unproductive, because it will set the tone for the rest of the day to be unproductive if you're not disciplined enough. The second strategy is what I call the productive early bird strategy. You might think that it is the opposite of the unproductive early bird, which is kind of true, but there is more to it. So you need to identify the things that you usually do after work, and instead of doing them in the evening, you would wake up early in the morning to do them, so you would have nothing or little to do in the evening. Then you will end up having an empty schedule in the evening, and you can use that time to play video games without worrying about anything. So for example, if your usual evenings go like read a book for 30 minutes, exercise for 30 minutes, and maybe learning a new skill for 1 hour, which adds up to 2 hours, you would instead wake up 2 hours earlier in the day to do these things so that you are completely or almost free in the evenings to play video games. The good thing about this is that you get to start your day very productively and accomplish important tasks early in the day, which sets a positive tone for the rest of the day. The bad thing about this is that you still need to have the discipline to wake up early, especially if you're not a morning person. I also think that there are some things that can only be done in the evenings. Like if you usually spend evenings with family and you want to apply this strategy, what are you gonna do? Force them to wake up at 5 a.m. just to spend time with them? But yeah, depending on what you usually do in the evenings, this could work for you. The third strategy is something that I call the right after work strategy. This is something I'm sure you tried in some variation at some point in your life. Like, remember when you used to come back from school and you just threw your backpack away and immediately started playing video games? You can do the same thing with work. As soon as you come back home, just start gaming. No need to wash your hands, no need to change your clothes, you don't need to do anything. Just sit down and just straight up start playing video games. The positive aspect of this is that it's very easy to follow because it's triggered by something you do every day, or almost every day, because you don't do that in the weekends, which is the act of coming back from work. So you don't have to be so specific with the timing. The bad thing about it is that you might find it difficult to summon the energy to play video games right after work, especially if you have a mentally or physically demanding job. I also think that you might have a tendency to neglect or completely skip important things because you might lose track of time and end up playing for longer than intended. Whenever I do this, I do not lose track of time, but instead, I consciously choose to skip important things and just continue playing, and then inevitably end up feeling guilty afterwards. But if you have the discipline, this can be a very viable option for you. The fourth strategy is what I call the remote gamer strategy. And I know that it might sound strange from the name, but this is what you do when you are desperate to play video games. This strategy is simple. You just need to have your main gaming machine to be accessible remotely, and you need a smartphone, tablet, or a laptop, a decent internet connection, and a controller if you want to. Then, during the day, whenever you have some downtime, such as maybe a lunch break, or maybe while commuting, or maybe while you're waiting for an appointment, you can remote access to your gaming machine and just start playing. The big advantage of this is that you get to play fully fledged games on the go, and you're not just limited to crappy mobile games that are usually not as immersive or satisfying to play. The downside of this is that there is some input lag, which instantly limits you to single player games, and you might have to play them in a lower difficulty just to compensate for the lag. And I find it really hard to fully immerse myself in the game when I'm playing remotely. Maybe it's because there are some external distractions, and maybe because the screen size is much smaller than what I'm used to. But you know, at least you get to play AAA games on the go. Now for the fifth and final strategy, we have the weekend strategy. And as the name suggests, it involves playing the weekend songs while playing video games. That's really funny, I know. But really, it involves letting go of the idea of playing video games during weekdays and just dedicating your entire weekend to gaming. To make it more effective, try to do your absolute best during the week to get everything done, so that when the weekend comes around, you don't have anything important to do. Now, I want to say that I know it might be a difficult thing for you to let go of the idea of playing video games every day, which is something I'm sure you grew up doing, but trust me, it is still satisfying to do, even if it's just weekends. The good thing about this is that you feel that you have plenty of time to play, while maybe other strategies make you feel rushed or that you are on a time limit. I tried thinking of a downside for this, but I found it really difficult. I would say that it might be that social events often happen on weekends, so you might feel that you have to sacrifice your social life for gaming, which, depending on your priorities, could be seen as a positive or a negative. I don't know, it all depends. And before ending the video, I want to point out that every single strategy will require some sacrifice or adjustment. It's not like it's a magical cure that will make time appear out of thin air. If you are struggling with wasting time on other things, then it's a matter of adjustment, and it would seem that you created time out of nowhere. But if you have a schedule that is already full, then you have to sacrifice something. You have to. And if you find that you can't, it's okay. You might have to accept that gaming can't be a top priority in your life right now, and only now. Because remember, things can and will change because, as the wise Greek man once said, change is the only constant. If you found this video to be useful or entertaining, I encourage you to check out my other video where I talk about 5 more strategies that are a little bit more absurd, but I'm sure they could work for some people. And if it's still not on screen, it means that I haven't made it yet, like I'm completely depending on my future self to make this happen. But anyway, until next time, Jenny, bye bye.